Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, it's going to be another episode of Life Through My Eyes. So this is episode 2, and I'm going to talk to you about how drinking and driving has affected my life. And I'm going to let you know now that I will probably cry through this at some point because it is a very touchy subject. But I'm also doing this as a reminder to people, especially around the holidays, that the decisions you make have consequences, and those consequences could be life-shattering for somebody else. So a little disclaimer before we get into this video. I am 26 years old and I've never taken a sip of alcohol, beer, anything. I've never touched it, and I've never even thought about touching it. So you're probably wondering how this video is coming about if I've never drank or anything like that. And this isn't a story about some kid I went to high school with that decided to drink at prom and then something happened. No, this is a very personal story. But those types of situations where kids drink and drive, they happen as well. And those I've experienced, but this is something more and far more personal than, you know, somebody I went to school with. This touches home in a whole different way, and could make you cry. It makes me cry. So this story starts before I was even born. So this starts back in November of 1989, at a time where my mom didn't even know she was pregnant with me. My mom had gotten into an accident with a gentleman who at the time was so intoxicated that when they pulled him out of his car, he didn't even think anything happened. He thought he ran into, well, he didn't even know what he ran into. He couldn't even think straight. He was so disoriented from how much alcohol he had in his system that when they asked him his name, he couldn't remember his name. And when he talked, it was so slurred that they thought that he probably had hit his head or something. When they took him to the hospital to be tested, if he went off the limits now for what they are now, he was 3 times over our legal limit now. So he was very, very intoxicated. So like I said, at this time my mom didn't know she was pregnant with me. And in this accident she had hit her head. The airbags had gone off because it was such a high impact. And my mom got rushed to the hospital with my sister. And when she arrived at the hospital, my mom was bleeding excessively, and they asked my mom if there was a possibility she could be pregnant, and my mom said, well, I mean, it is very possible. So they did a blood test and they found out that my mom was pregnant, and the doctors at the time had thought my mom was having a miscarriage because of all the bleeding. The bleeding had subsided and slowed down enough. They did another test, and my mom, her levels still showed very high. So they kept testing, and it came back my mom was still pregnant. As you guys can see, I'm sitting here, so obviously she was very pregnant. Throughout the rest of the pregnancy, my mom had gone through testing, not only from the accident, just because they also saw other signs that kind of worried them. So my mom went through an amniocentesis, and in the amniocentesis they had results that came back in a way that kind of scared them. So they discussed other options with my mom about potentially abortion, adoption, because the results from the amniocentesis showed that there was a good chance that I'd have some delays or potential mental retardation, or a long list of things. And it went from like Down syndrome to somewhere on the autistic spectrum to I could have real bad health defects. That they were very concerned. So they gave my mom like this just huge array of things that could be wrong. And they started talking about other options with my mom just in case, because they didn't want my mom to go through the whole pregnancy and it become too much. They didn't want to put all this on my mom, and my mom had decided she wanted to keep me. She didn't care if I was going to be, you know, the biggest workload she ever had. She wanted me. Throughout the rest of her pregnancy, my mom got rushed into emergency surgery in March, so 2 months before I was born, because through some of her testing, because she was having really bad stomach pain, they checked to make sure everything was okay. When they did one of the checks, my mom had a cyst that was about the size or a little smaller than a golf ball, so a very large cyst on her ovary, and they had to go through surgery right away. During the surgery, they prepared a neonatal unit of team of doctors in case they had to deliver me right there and then, because they were very concerned with how large the cyst was, that it could hurt my development or that it could rupture, and then both me and my mom would most likely not make it, just for how bad it was. So they did the surgery and they didn't need the team, and 2 months later my mom had me. The night that my mom had me, the doctors told my mom that when she delivered me and they delivered the placenta and whatnot, there was a second sac. So all that bleeding my mom had back in November from the accident, they do believe my mom had a miscarriage. And they're very sure that my mom had miscarried my twin. So in that accident where they thought my mom was just bleeding because of the trauma, that accident caused my mom to lose my twin. So drinking and driving, and not me doing it or anybody I know doing it, took a life from my family before my family even got to enjoy that life, to meet that person and to just experience that person. So my whole life I've sat and I've wondered what my twin would be like. Would we have that bond where we could read each other's minds? Would we fight? Would we laugh? What would we be like together? What would we be like separately? You know, would our personalities balance out? Would we have the same kind of personalities? Would we have the same humor? Would we like the same movies, the same food? It's always been hard to sit back, and I've heard this story 1,000 times from my mom, from my dad, and just everything, just because it was one of those things my parents didn't want to hide from me at all. They wanted me to know, and they've always said how, you know, me and my sisters are all miracles for one reason or another, but me being in the situation that I was my mom's whole entire pregnancy, I'm the biggest miracle they've had, because at that time I'd overcome so much in such a short 9 months. And it's hard to watch people make the decisions to drink and drive and not realize that those decisions could shatter somebody's world completely. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I've known people that have drank and drove, and some of them have lost their lives for it. I mean, when I was in high school, there was a girl and her boyfriend that were leaving they were leaving a party after one of our big events in high school, and he wrapped his car around a tree because he was drunk and he was impaired, and swerved to miss hitting a rodent and slammed into a tree. And I don't think people really think about their actions and the consequences that they could have and how it could affect somebody else's life, and just take something from them that could mean the world. For all we know, my twin could have been the person that cured AIDS, that cured cancer, that became a president and changed our world for the rest of our lives. I mean, it's crazy to think, but it's true. You don't know what that person could have been like. You don't know how that person could have turned out, or how they could have changed the world or changed the life that I lived even a little bit. So I just hope people watching this, I hope that you talk to your loved ones and you help them make the best decisions in life, so that they don't make the same decisions where they feel that just because they had one beer or they took a shot of whiskey 6 hours ago that they're fine to drive, because even a little bit of alcohol can impair your judgments and can impair you from driving safely from point A to point B. And that decision could cause you your life. It could take your life, but it could also take the life of somebody else. And that one decision could change somebody's world completely. It could change their life 100%, and all because you decided to get behind the wheel when you were intoxicated. It's been hard growing up with this unknown walking around with me, especially when all the stuff that's gone on in my life, and you sit and wonder, why me? It's hard. So I hope that when the holidays come around and you are drinking with your friends, or you're just having a beer at dinner, that you think about your decisions and think about how those decisions could affect yourself, your family, and the people around you. If you wouldn't want your kids doing it, then don't show them it and don't do it. Think before you drive after you've been drinking. That's all I would like to say. If you guys have any questions, or you want to share your experience of how drinking and driving affected your life, or you just want to talk about any of your experiences in life, you can always leave that in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you guys, and I hope you guys have taken a little something from this video, and I'll see you again for another video real soon. Bye guys.